Oh, we're here. Good Thursday morning to you. Welcome into Morning JOX 94.5. We finally got the field down to 64 teams in the NCAA tournament. Today is pretty much the closest thing to a national holiday you can really get to, as we get the heavy dosage at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's time for some action. It's time for some action in the NCAA tournament. A lot of games getting tipped off today. We finally had the remaining games of the final. Well, I say the final four. Excuse me, the first four last night. I'll put it like this, and again, this is for entertainment purposes only. If you caught the line that Texas was going to, they had Texas +5 in the matchup with Xavier. That last little gimme really was a gut punch. Actually, the entire game was a gut punch. Let's just go to the Texas and Xavier game. Xavier knocks off Texas 86-80. Texas at one point was up by 13 points and absolutely just, I don't even know how to describe the fumble of the bag. You had it locked up. And then all I saw right before I went to sleep last night was, oh, the SEC is so overrated. And now see why they were why do they have 14 teams in the SEC and in the NCAA tournament? They're overrated. And I was just like, don't let this one game be a representation of what the rest of the conference is going to be. But it hurts. It hurts. It hurt me on the entertainment side, and it also hurt me just watching as an SEC fan as well. I know you were probably, jumping for joy since you're not a big Texas guy.
Well, I just, on the whole SEC thing, first off, you knew this was going to happen because people have been waiting for it. But, it's like saying you judge the entirety of the AFC based on, how good the Titans are. Like, you just can't do that because, then it's going to bring everything else down. What?
That wasn't even necessary, man.
Oh, I don't know. That was just the first comparison that came to mind for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but I did. But no, look, I will be honest. I said it. I think I said it yesterday. I was actually pulling for Texas last night, just like I was in the SEC tournament, because I wanted 14 teams in, and I wanted to start things off on the right foot, because what you were just describing, you knew that was going to happen.
Man.
The second, whether it was Texas or somebody else later on today, the first time an SEC team lost, you knew it was going to be, people were going to start coming out of the woodworks. And to be fair, I don't think it helps that, North Carolina won by 30 the other night, and that was, kind of where all the attention went. And then they won by 30, and everyone took a step back and said, okay, maybe we were frustrated. Maybe we still don't agree with the process, but clearly you answered the bell and proved why you deserved to be the last team in the tournament. Texas, not so much, unfortunately. And just watching the first half of that game, as good as you felt about what you were seeing from Texas at times, you did know, Texas shot about almost 60% from the field in the first half.
Yep.
And whenever you see something like that, is it possible it continues in the second half? It is, but it's more likely that you're going to regress back towards the mean, and especially when you had a Xavier team on the other side that just wasn't getting shots to fall for them, you start to look and go, okay, you could easily see where this game could turn around pretty quickly, and at the very least, Xavier could make it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And for the majority of the second half, that's what it looked like, right? Was, okay, Xavier can make it interesting, but they're not closing the gap, really. And then they absolutely did that at the end of the game. And then, Damian and many others were heartbroken when you had that little dunk with a couple of seconds left. Which you don't really see that. Yeah, you don't really see that. And I didn't know, I didn't see after the game if any of the Texas people took offense to that, because that's normally a no-no.
Exactly.
When you can just dribble it out and end it, and you've already
it's
won.
It's an unwritten rule.
Yeah, you just kind of let it go. But I guess somebody had Xavier minus the points, so you got to do what you got to do, I guess. But no, that was a bad beat last night for anybody playing it for entertainment purposes, and yeah, for Texas, that was that's a brutal way for your season to end, especially coming off, the highs that you just had in Nashville this past weekend, and now for it to come to an end against Xavier. But hey, Xavier, like I said, Texas shot about 60% in the first half. Xavier shoots about 60% in the second half, and Texas
And they turned up.
turning the ball over, just not getting some shots. And I will say this, for as good as Trey Johnson is, there are times, and you've seen this really all season long, but there are times.
He's a freshman.
Yes, and you can also tell there are times where it's like, all right, I'm about to do. He's trying to take shots that I think he wants to show the NBA, like, hey, look at the shot I can make. And that's great, but you don't need to keep taking contested three-point shots. And I know he was hitting some of them last night, and I know you're going to take that. But there were a couple opportunities last night where it felt like, okay, Texas needs to kind of build on this run they're going on here. And he was just going down the floor and taking a contested three to be like, hey, I'm the best player on the floor. I'm going to take whatever shot I want. And sometimes it just wasn't the smart basketball play. And I think you had that a couple times with other guys too for Texas, where you're just kind of scratching your head like, you just need two here, or at the very least take some time off the clock. And they're pulling up for some questionable shots, and that's how you find yourself going home.
Yep. And that second half, I mean, Xavier was.
I mean, they had a stretch.
They were just hot.
They had a stretch where everybody was hitting threes.
Yeah. And also, Zach Fremantle, I don't know if you got a chance to hear his interview after the game. Didn't expect him to sound like that.
No.
He's cut from a different cloth. I'll just put it like that.
Well, you just don't like him because of.
No,
he scored at the very end.
No, I was perfectly fine with it, and that's, like I said, for entertainment purposes, it's kind of one you'll take it. You take it on the chin and just, hey, keep it pushing. And there are a lot of games today and tomorrow that will make up for it. But I just think that when you watch this game, I came away thinking, all right, this is Xavier team coming in as the 11 seed. Okay, like I would watch out for them, because that second half, it really, you could feel the momentum just in the building completely change. And it sounded, I mean, it looked like it and sounded like Xavier travels. Like they traveled well down to Dayton to play. And Marcus Foster, it felt like he really was dialed in. He finishes with 22 points for Xavier, 8 rebounds as well. Zach Fremantle gives you 15. And I think that Texas started to press too early. Like the pressure started to mount on them too early. And to your point, they were trying to take ill-advised shots of, okay, Trey Johnson, there's still 28 seconds left on the shot clock. Like there's no need to rush this shot. And then when it goes in, you're like, okay, well, I see why you have the confidence, but the shot selection at times was just so questionable, especially when Xavier was cutting into the lead. And all they did was just go back down the floor, hit a three, and then like, okay, we're back on defense. If you're gonna jack these shots up early, we'll get the flow in on the offensive side, find a good shot. And when they did, it was just a walking bucket in the second half.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you could just tell that at times there were, for Texas, especially late, you just had shots that had been falling for you in the first half, and then they just weren't falling for you anymore in the second half. And, they had a couple of shots that, I mean, they were about halfway down the cylinder, and then they pop back out of the basket, and you're just like, okay, I mean, that's the way that it's going to go, right? When you have those, when you're just shooting the lights out of the gym, it's hard to do that for 40 consecutive minutes. And yeah, I mean, you turn the ball over more times. I mean, Texas went to the free throw line more. I mean, Xavier did not shoot well from the free throw line. Texas goes 24 times. They shoot about 75% from the line, but you have too many turnovers. You shot the ball well from three, but Xavier shot more shots from three and shot at a higher clip. Xavier goes 12 of 25 from three. Texas goes 8 of 17. So again, percentage-wise, you're happy with a lot of these things, but you take less shots than Xavier, you turn the ball over more than they do, and they have a hot second half, and that's how you find yourself going home. And again, not surprising. What you were saying with people going in and trying to get their shots in at the SEC now, it's also not surprising that you had reports coming out after the game that Texas is probably going to be going in a different direction at head coach with Rodney Terry, who I think a lot of people remember had to come in and kind of step in with Chris Beard and that whole situation when he was removed from the program. And Rodney Terry took Texas to an Elite Eight, actually. And that was because I did forget this. But in that Elite Eight run, the team they beat in the Sweet 16 was Xavier.
Mm.
And so last night was a little bit of a rematch for Sean Miller and Rodney Terry. And so that was kind of a cool storyline going, kind of around the game. But yeah, I mean, that was his first year. He took Texas to an Elite Eight. Now back-to-back years where they just haven't been what you would expect. And as we've seen in the SEC this year, you got to have your ducks in a row if you're going to want to compete at the highest level. And, as great as guys like Trey Johnson are, clearly, it just wasn't clicking for Texas in the way that they needed it to. And so now we just get to add them to the next list of coaching carousel members. It'll be fun. I'm sure there'll be no controversy, no tampering, no anything like that. And as we know, Texas, money's no obstacle.
Oh, no, not at all.
So I would expect that
Not at all.
there's a lot of people that are going to be getting phone calls.
Yeah, like imagine if you're a former coach in the SEC. He did accept another job in Will Wade. Just imagine if he had waited just one more day, just a few more hours, just to see. Because if I was Texas, that would probably be the first, text message. I know you got a game to play. I know you got to focus in, but we might be leaving. We might be separating from Rodney Terry, and if you want to get back into the SEC, there's a spot open for you. But he's at NC State now, so he will be soon. I'll put it like that.
One thing I think, and I have not seen anything. I don't know if there's a hot board, whatever. I'm sure there's one out there already. But somebody that I was thinking about that just would kind of fit into they would just seem like a fit at Texas in the sense that people would not like them there. But I think after this year and maybe some of the difficulties and not taking a certain job last year, if you're Dan Hurley, do you take a phone call from somewhere like Texas that's willing to pay you probably an obscene amount of money to come be their basketball coach? I mean, you get maybe the most unlikable coach in college basketball to go and coach one of the more, I guess, unlikable brands just from a fan standpoint and how good that they like to tell everyone they are. And that's exactly how Dan Hurley is. And, he turned down the Lakers job this past year to come back to UConn. And I mean, they're good, right? They're an 8 seed. They're in the tournament, but you just wonder if, going to a school like Texas that's going to be able to give him anything he would want from a resource standpoint, because I know that was one of his concerns about UConn was, I mean, we're winning national championships here, and like we've kind of taken this thing as high as we possibly can, and the money's still not where we would need it to be to compete with some of these other bigger programs. So I don't know. That was just something I thought about in terms of, you're Texas, right? You're going to make people say no to you. And I would imagine that's going to be, that's the kind of guy that you call and you make them say no.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about with Kentucky last year. You call him, you make him a crazy offer, and if he says no, then so be it. But you tried.
Hastings texts in, he says, thoughts on Mike White to Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I like Mike White. I think he's done a good job at Georgia. I thought he did a solid job at Florida while he was there as well. I don't mean this against Mike White because I really do think he's a good coach. But, if you're a Texas fan, does that
does that move the needle? Like,
yeah, does that oh, we're back? Like, I don't.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I look at it. And actually, you kind of sparked my interest on the Dan Hurley thing. Like, it just seems like a good marriage. Like, that would be a good fit. Because
nobody likes either of them. It'd be great.
Right. That is a very interesting thought. But then you kind of look at it of, okay, I'm at UConn.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to have to deal with being in the SEC after what you saw this year? And
right.
Yeah, it's different. And as we know, I mean, Texas has a lot of money to go around, but, football is always going to rule the day and there as well. And so where at UConn basketball is king. So, there's a lot of things you have to weigh. I just, I was just, I guess, looking at that from a standpoint of, I wonder if Dan Hurley ever, is kept up at night thinking, man, I kind of wish I was coaching the Lakers right now because that's working out pretty well for JJ Redick. So they're doing pretty well right now. And, maybe it just, somebody makes you a crazy, again, I don't know what that number would be for him or what it would have to be to get him to leave UConn. But if there's one,
make him say no.
If there's one person that can pay it, it's
with ease.
Texas.
With ease.
Yeah.
205-834-9450. There are actually some people texting in. Somebody said Rick Pitino.
That would be
That would add a couple more years on him. Like
that'd be cool. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be smooth. That'd be real smooth. And you want to talk about some of the sound
and the
bites,
all-white suit in Austin, Texas. Oh, yeah.
Right. And then think about, some things he did at Louisville. That's called NIL now.
Mm-hmm.
It's called NIL now.
Mm-hmm.
So he get them boys over there. he get them over there. 205-834-9450. Taking a look at the NCAA tournament. And now I guess the coaching carousel there in Austin, Texas, as it seems as though they will be moving away from Rodney Terry here in the next couple of days. Just take a look at the NCAA tournament today. Where are you going to be when you watch some of these games? How locked in are you? Do you want to send in your Final Four? Who do you think is going to win the national championship? It's March Madness Power Hour on Morning Jocks this morning. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and of course you as well, 205-834-9450. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5. I'm not even going to guess. Who is this?
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue. Okay. I'm not even going to bring it up, but it's very similar to the Garth Brooks situation with Florida Georgia Line. I heard a cover of a song that Florida Georgia Line did, and it was Motley Crue's. What is it? If I Die Tomorrow.
Okay.
That was the first, and I was like, wow, this is a great song. Didn't know that it was already done before.
That it was somebody else's.
Yeah. So I had to go back and do some digging.
Yeah, there's a really good there's a very interesting documentary on Netflix called The Dirt that's about Motley Crue in there.
Okay.
When you think of rock and roll and everything that went into that and the lifestyle and everything, that's
Motley Crue.
Yes.
I got you.
100%.
I got you. I can
Yeah. They're interesting.
Okay. I got to dive into the tape. Got to dive into it. Because when were they, like, what's, like, their popular era? Were they, like, 90s rock, 80s rock? Or
80s.
80s. Okay. I'll do my due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do my due diligence. 205-834-9450. Welcome back in the Morning Jocks. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and, of course, you as well. We did have another game in the NCAA tournament. The first game yesterday between the 216 seed, the fight for the 16 seed in Mount St. Mary's and American University. Mount St. Mary's was pretty much in control of the entire game.
Yeah, well, you felt bad because American lost their best player in the first half, and once he went down,
it was a gut punch.
Yeah, and I'll give them credit, right? Because at least early on in the second half, they were able to kind of make it interesting again, and then Mount St. Mary's just kind of took that thing and ran with it.
Yeah, they did. Mount St. Mary's knocked off American 83-72, and now they get a chance to face Duke. So,
I was about to say, it's just like we were talking about yesterday with Alabama State, and as great as that win is, and it's like, what's your reward?
Auburn.
You get to go and play Auburn. I did see where the Alabama State coach, he was, I guess, doing some media yesterday, and they were just kind of asking about the game, and he's essentially like, hey, we're happy to be here, man. We're going to go and shoot a bunch of threes and see what happens. It's like, that's a good attitude to have, because
that's the game plan.
I was about to say, let's be nothing against them, but let's be honest, if you play Auburn 100 times, they're probably going to beat you 99 times. But there's always that one time.
Exactly. That's what Hugh Freeze said about Arkansas during football season. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, except this time it's actually real.
Yeah. Like, we can actually, it actually happen.
Yes, correct.
But the NCAA tournament gets kicked off today. Starting at about 11:15. We actually could see the opponent of Auburn if they handle their business with Alabama State. Just trying to be, respectful to Alabama State.
Yes.
Because they do. There is a chance.
You have to play the game.
Exactly. But Creighton and Louisville, the 8-9 matchup, gets you started on CBS at 11:15, and a little bit after 11:30, you have Purdue and High Point. Purdue coming in as the number 4 seed. Then at 12:30, Wisconsin and Montana, 3:14, and you get an early look at another, number 1 seed in Houston as they take on SIU Edwardsville, and at about 2:00 or so, Auburn takes on Alabama State. You can also hear that game here on JOX 94.5. But the game will be tipped off about 2:00 there on CBS from Lexington, Kentucky. So it's going to be that's just to start things off.
Yeah, and this is a good time to remind you that for 3-man front today, we're going to be out at Twin Peaks and Hoover. So you can come out there, check out all the games. We're going to be going off the air a little early, around 1:30, so that we can get you over to Auburn for the pregame and get you ready for that tip at 1:50. But yeah, it's going to be a good time out there at Twin Peaks, and all those games that Damian just listed off, those will be going on during the show while we're out there. So come by, say hello, have a beer, have some wings, watch some basketball. It'll be a good time.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls always welcome. Going back to a lot of people heard that shot that you took earlier, Conrad.
At who?
At the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody texts in and says, "Wow, early morning Titans gut punch." Right, and it just came out of nowhere, y'all. I was just as shocked. Like, wait, whoa, wait a minute.
It's just where my mind went to.
Somebody texted in and says, who do you and Conrad have winning your tournament brackets?
I have Florida.
And I have three. I have Houston. I have Houston over Florida in the national championship game.
And all three of them?
And two of them.
And two of them?
And one of them I have the Auburn Tigers.
Okay, yeah.
I have the Auburn Tigers. But I have Houston in the championship in all three of them.
Do you have Auburn in the Final Four of all of them?
No.
Do you have Alabama in the Final Four in any of them?
One of them.
Okay.
One of them.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, you go where the bracket takes you, my friend.
I know it, man. But it's so hard when you're filling it out. And it's like the number one seeds, I look at them completely different. It's, okay, how does that matchup look? And it's so hard to just not
Pick them.
Yeah, it's so hard not to take because when I look at everything, it's like, well, they're the better team. And it's
there's nothing worse than filling out your bracket. And, especially early on, you're like, upset pick here, and you get to the end and you're like, I feel like that was a good bracket. You have that, you're like, that was a good bracket. I took my time with it. I thought this through. I made some good picks. And then you look back and you've got all four number one seeds in the Final Four, and you've got like 7 of the 8 Elite 8 teams are 1 or 2 seeds, and you're just like, yeah, I know that's not going to happen, so I got to go back and figure something out here and make it a little more interesting, because it is so easy to just look and go,
Yes.
I mean, well, yeah, why wouldn't I take Auburn in all of these games? Why wouldn't I take Duke in all of these games? They've been the best team, and then, yeah, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So, but hey, maybe this will be the year. Maybe this is the year that it'll all make sense, and it'll be all number one seeds. And
right. And it's so hard because when you look at, I would say probably the top 8 to 10 teams, of course it gets harder the further you go. But I think that the matchups in all of them that you could potentially see, like I see Duke and Alabama in a lot, like I have Duke and Alabama in a lot of them. And so one bracket I have Duke going, I have Alabama going in another one. And it's so hard to put a finger on Alabama because of the style in which they play, they can be out early or they can actually, not turn the ball over and hit their shots, and they'll mess around and be in the national championship game. Because like they're probably the hardest team to truly just feel confident in. But if it all works out, it's so hard not to see them being in the national championship because of the fact that, one, if Mark Sears continues like he did last season of, truly showing the world of who he is, and if Grant Nelson has another game, if a lot of the other pieces start to elevate, it's hard not to see this team in the national championship. In the same way with Auburn, it's, okay, if the world finally sees Janabroom for what we've seen all regular season, how can you not be confident of them making a deep, deep run? And anything short of at least the Elite 8 is an absolute just disaster for both Alabama and Auburn.
No, I completely agree. I mean, and you've heard both coaches here in the past week, it's Final Four or bust now at this point. And that is, that's the only problem with getting to a Final Four, is that then becomes the expectation, right? Is you've gotten there before, all right, why can't you do it again? And, especially in the cases of Alabama and Auburn, Auburn's Final Four team was spectacular. Alabama's Final Four team last year, I thought they were a good team. I didn't think they were a great team, but they figured it out at the right time. But I think that's also part of it where, you have fans that, and especially maybe more so on the Auburn side right now, just because, Alabama was last year, whereas Auburn, it's been 5 years now. But you look and you go, man, we've had better teams since then that haven't been able to replicate that success. And I think that's where some of the frustration sets in, going back to, Alabama a couple years ago when they were the 1 seed and they lost to San Diego State. And you're just going, man, this felt like the year. And then out of nowhere last year ended up being the year that you made a Final Four. Similar to Auburn when they had Jabari and Walker Kessler. And you're like, man, this is the year.
Yep.
And it wasn't. And so maybe this is the year for Auburn. Maybe this is the year for Alabama again to get back to a Final Four. But I will just, and I hate to do this because I know it's early in the morning and people feel good about their brackets. They're getting ready for work. They're like, I'm not going to look at my bracket again. I've got it set. But knowledge is power. And since we were talking about it, all right, so over the last 40 years, one time all four number one seeds made the Final Four. One time. It's in 2008. Just going by the numbers here, the most common result is only one number one seed makes the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
That has happened 17 out of the last 40 years. 16 times two one seeds have made the Final Four. So that's,
Here you go, Conrad.
Splitting hairs there. 4 times three of the number one seeds have made it. And one time, 0 number one seeds made it. So if you're playing the numbers game here,
1 to 2.
Statistically, you are better off if you have 1 or 2 number one seeds in your Final Four, because it's only happened once either way, where you've either had 0 or you've had all of them make it in the last 40 years. This is also just a kind of a random one to throw in there, but based on seeding, so the most common seeds to make the Final Four in the last 40 years, this is in the last 15 years. So 18 times the number one seed's made it. No surprise there. 10 times the number 2 seed has made it. 6 times a number 4 seed has made it. 5 times a number 5 seed has made it. But here's the kicker. 4 Final Four appearances in the last 15 years for number 3 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And number 11 seeds. So, again, if we're just playing the numbers game here.
So you're saying North Carolina is about to go to the Final Four?
I'm just saying, if you are looking at your Cinderella picks based on the numbers over the last 15 years, you are best off picking an 11 seed to be a Cinderella that goes to the Final Four.
NC State last year, they were an 11 seed.
There you go.
Oh, boy, here you go.
I
got to go back and look through all these brackets again.
I am just passing it along.
See, that's why I feel like multiple brackets, because of information like this. It's like, man, you know what? Let me get in here and see what's going on.
Oh, and also I'll add into this. There's never been a year where the Elite Eight was all 1 and 2 seeds. So if that's what you end up with in your bracket, it could happen this year.
True.
But it has not happened in the last 40 years.
Oh boy. Here we go.
I'm just trying to help everyone out.
Here we go. 205-834-9450. We'll continue with the March Madness Power Hour here on Morning Jocks. Who do you have in your Final Four? How many brackets have you filled out? If you are kind of like some of these other people, I just got one. Congratulations. I do multiple. I love the game. I love the game. It's got that dog in me when it comes to these brackets. It's like fantasy football. I just keep it going. I try to contain myself. I'm not confident in one. Then the other ones I start, just having fun with it. 205-834-9450. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5. Attaboy, Conrad. Atta baby. Oh boy, I remember the old heydays, man, when the school formerly known as Birmingham Southern was up and running. RIP. But man, Fetty Wap was always in rotation. Always in rotation. Welcome back in, man. 205-834-9450. Damian Mitchell alongside Conrad Van Order. This is Morning Jocks. It is the NCAA Tournament Power Hour. We're having some fun here. Fanboy text in. It says, Damian, your Houston pick is the go-to pick that messes up a lot of brackets. It's like taking Tennessee in a lot of brackets. I just think for Houston to me, they got their losses out a little early. And what Kelvin Sampson does, especially just the identity of this team, is if a team that Houston is playing is struggling offensively, that feeds right into what Houston does well, because they already play hard. Their defense, they're scrappy, they get after it. But also they can maintain a lead because they don't have to rush into anything. Because if you're struggling making your shots defensively for them, you're playing right into their wheelhouse. Like, okay, well, y'all are struggling. Let's add more pressure to that. So I think that they can win multiple style games where they don't have to be in the track meets. They almost dictate how a game is run. And I think the talent that they have, it feels like Kelvin Sampson is due for one too. Like I truly do believe that he's one of the best coaches in college basketball right now. And the only thing that's really escaping him from, taking Houston over the top is the national championship. And I think that this team, they're going to be a bad matchup for just about anybody, because it's not like they quote unquote have a superstar, but they have a bunch of role players that excel in their role game in and game out.
Yeah, I mean, they are one of the, as we've talked about, with different teams in the SEC, they're just like, they're pesky, right? They're just kind of annoying to play because they are going to be fundamentally sound. They're going to play tough defense. But yeah, I mean, if you can get around that and you can find a way to score, in the 80s, typically, you're going to have a really good chance of beating a team like Houston, right? It's just, if you can beat them at their own game, then there's not a lot that they can do. And the reason that, people, because it's not like Houston, doesn't get in the tournament and win games. It's just the fact that, going back over the last 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there was no tournament in 2020, as we all know, because of COVID. But in the last 6 years, they've made the tournament every year since 2018. All right, in 2018, you got knocked out in the round of 32. Next year, Sweet 16. In 2021, you did make it to the Final Four, but you lost to a Baylor team that ultimately won the national championship. In 2022, you made it to the Elite Eight, lost to Villanova. Oh, that game 50-44. I forgot about that. That's Houston for you.
Exactly.
And you have in 2023, you lost in the Sweet 16, and then last year you lost in the Sweet 16. So that's where, I get it. That's where a lot of the Houston doubt comes in. It's just like the texter was saying about Tennessee, right? Is they're a really good pick traditionally to get in the tournament and win a couple games. It's just, it's like Gonzaga as well, right? Every year that Gonzaga's a 1 seed, people go, they're due a national championship. They deserve one because they've gotten close. They've been a number 1 seed so many times and they haven't gotten it. Well, that's not how the tournament works. And, you can traditionally go with Gonzaga to win a handful of games and not win a national championship. So, maybe this is the year for Houston. I think Houston's really good. And, I think, the other thing with these brackets is, we get so wrapped up in what's happened in the past. And I think last year was a really good example of it, right? We're going into the tournament. I mean, anybody that watched college basketball, you knew UConn was the best team.
Mm-hmm.
But on the mental side, you're filling out a bracket and you're going, man, nobody's won back-to-back titles in over 15 years since Florida did it. Like, that just doesn't happen. So you start to overthink certain things.
Yep.
And you pick someone else, and then at the end of the day, when UConn repeats and everyone goes, oh, that was the easiest pick ever, and you're like, well, it was, but why would I expect anybody to repeat? Sometimes you just overthink things. And I feel like that's kind of where, at least in my opinion, I think that's where a lot of it is with Florida right now. Because I know we've had, PG and Lee and some of our other listeners that are Florida fans like, oh, I'm just worried now that everyone's picking them. And I'm like, sometimes, though, everyone's picking you. And granted, Duke is still the most popular pick, actually, if you look at all the brackets that have been submitted. but Florida's the second favorite national championship pick. And it's like sometimes it is as simple as this team is hot right now. They are playing better basketball than anybody. Why would you not pick them? And that doesn't mean that Florida is guaranteed to win a national championship or anything. But, I think last year was just a good reminder for people that sometimes just take the best teams. Like it's going to work out more often than it's not. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be upsets in your bracket, but we love to overthink these things. And
exactly. That's why you got to fill out multiple.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got to fill out multiple brackets.
Are they all in? They're not all in the pool we're doing together, is it? Or are they?
Two of them are.
Two of them are? Okay.
Yeah. Two of them are, and then the other one. So all of my brackets are the same. It's just where I put them is different. Like I filled out 3 on the ESPN tournament app, of course, and the 2 that I picked were the 2 I feel most confident in. I put them in the $1 million bracket.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they're the exact same. It's just where they are in location, I guess you would say.
I gotcha.
But yeah, and then there's one I'm just, kind of a homer. War Eagle.
I mean, I think a lot of people probably made for fun. Like I'm not playing it anywhere, but I made an all SEC final, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. See what happens. Who knows? Maybe that ends up being, one of the better brackets at the end of the day. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, just don't overthink
it.
And that's why I felt bad about sharing those numbers about the number 1 seeds and all that stuff, because it is good information, but it's also, if you feel good, if you woke up this morning and you felt good about your bracket, then just leave
it. That's it.
Leave it.
Or you can fill multiple out, and then you feel confident about a couple.
Well, there you go.
Exactly. And Cassie takes in, she says, now looking for time before 11 o'clock to check my brackets and not overthink.
Yeah.
But it happens like that. But that's why I love the fun. Like there's an adrenaline rush every single time. Like I can't just look at one bracket and it's like, this is it. I couldn't do it. And I put it like this, if they didn't give me the option to do multiple, I wouldn't do it.
There is no, there are few feelings in sports from just the fan perspective of everything that goes on with the game. If you have ever gotten through like the first day of the tournament with a perfect bracket, like if you wake up tomorrow and you're 16-0 in your bracket from today, that is one of the best feelings in the world. Like you just feel like a genius.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just, you walk out, your posture's better, your chest is puffed out a little bit for the next day. And then, I mean, you're going to be humbled on Friday inevitably because, it's all going to, go to crap at some point. But there is just something about that. And I think I've only had that happen one time ever where I walked out of the first day with a perfect bracket. And even if it's not 16-0, but if you're like 14-2, like you just have a hot day to start off there's nothing better than that.
Somebody texts in and says, is Janai Broom still the best player on the best team? Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's changed. That's the thing, man. Like, I think because of what we've seen Auburn, like if Florida and Auburn have just done the opposite here on the back end of the regular season into the SEC tournament, where Florida the reason why people are picking Florida is because they're peaking at the right time. And then for Auburn to have had the losses that they had against quality competition, it's, oh man, are they burning out? Like you don't psych yourself out. They still have the body of work. It's just, hey, it's like sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And think about even last year with Alabama getting knocked out early in the SEC tournament, just a brutal stretch at the end of the regular season, and they messed around and went to the Final Four. Like basketball is a lot different than football. Like it's a lot different from a lot of other sports where, and especially in tournament time, you just have to be better than that team that day. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you've done before then. It's on the day that y'all play and you beat them, survive in advance. We heard the Houston score from a couple years ago. It was 50-44 in a 40-minute basketball game. And that's all that matters. They won, they advanced, and that's the end all be all.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I just remember when we were going into the SEC tournament, we talked about it a lot on this station of, and we heard from a lot of you, and it was a sentiment that, Sure, would it be great if Auburn and Alabama could win the SEC tournament? Absolutely. But if you get knocked out a little early and you get extra rest, that's really not, it's kind of a win-win, right? You're either going to have a chance to win a tournament championship or you're going to get a little extra rest. Both ended up getting a little extra rest and
Mm-hmm.
not having the performances that you wanted to see. But again, like, we were all cool with that going into the SEC tournament. So now, like, it's fine. They've had time to rest. You're playing 16 seeds today. I know that, Saturday and Sunday could get a little sketchy, especially if you're Alabama playing St. Mary's, you're Auburn playing Louisville or Creighton. Like you might have to sweat it out a little bit at times potentially, but yes, these are both two of the best teams in basketball, and for Auburn as well. There's a reason that they were able to lose the games that were down the stretch and still be the number one overall seed because, again, it's just a testament to how dominant they were before the last, week and a half of the year. They're going to be
Absolutely.
fine.
Absolutely. 205-834-9450. I've got Houston winning the national championship. Conrad has Florida. Who do you have win the national championship in basketball at the end of the NCAA tournament? We want to hear from you. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5.
Welcome back into Morning Jocks, Jocks 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you for a couple more minutes before we hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. It is officially here. We have made it to March Madness. Games are going to start tipping at 11:15 this morning as Creighton and Louisville will do battle with the winner, presumably taking on Auburn in the second round. Auburn has to play Alabama State this afternoon at 1:50, but if they get past that, they will take on the winner of Creighton and Louisville. Reminder, three-man front will be out there at Twin Peaks and Hoover today from 10 to 2, so come out there and join us and watch all of the early games here in the NCAA tournament. We do also have the NIT going on, and wanted to give a quick shout-out to the UAB Blazers as they knocked off St. Joseph's last night 69-65 in a really just a wild finish. You had basket interference called at the end of the game. St. Joseph's hit a shot. It would have tied the game at 67 with a few seconds left. But the guy for St. Joseph's touches the ball above the cylinder, and you get basket interference called. And so instead of a tie game with overtime potentially on the horizon, or UAB having to quickly make a buzzer beater, gets called off, and UAB holds on to win 69-65. And so they will advance to the next round. They will now travel to Santa Clara, California. Well, they will take on Santa Clara on Sunday at 8 p.m. So a late tip for the Blazers on Sunday, but congratulations to them for advancing and moving on. And now we're here.
Exactly. It's
now
tournament
we are
time.
here. Hours away.
We are. Chris G says Auburn wins it all. Drake says Florida's winning it. Jason filled out 4 brackets. He's got Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, and Florida in the Final Four. All SEC, baby. It just means more. Who cares about Texas anyway? Mac and Cube in the morning. They're next.